seek you out, flay you alive.
Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of Java 101. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to use embedded resources. When you create applications, if you want to have images or files in the applications that are part of the application itself, you would want to embed them inside of the application. Now, the number one reason why this would be useful is, let's say that you have a swing application. Some parts of it might be, drawn by the computer, but let's say that you have a logo or like an image for a button, and this is not drawn, it's an actual image. You would need to embed it inside of your program, or you would need to package it in the program with the source files so that it's inside of the program, so that anyone who gets it will also have the same files. And today I'm going to show you the correct way to do that, because there are some wrong ways to do this, and I'm going to show you what the wrong ways are and why they are wrong. So the first thing that we'll go ahead and do is we'll actually add an embedded resource. For this, I'm going to use right here my avatar. It's just a PNG image of the avatar that I use on my YouTube channel, and we're going to embed that. Now, we're not going to make a GUI to show it, but I will be able to prove to you that it's able to successfully load it in one way, but not another. So I'll show you how to embed a resource, how to get access to it, the wrong ways to do it, and then how to specifically handle images. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and copy this so that I can put it in Eclipse. The way that I personally like to do this is I like to go to SRC and create a new package called res for resources, and inside of there I paste in any resources that I would need, and I usually name them with a lowercase letter, but it doesn't really matter. So in the SRC folder, I have this res package, and then below it I have all of the images or audio files or anything that I might possibly need. And within this res folder, you could organize it and have an image subfolder and an audio subfolder, and maybe you have some text files in there that you need to keep, so you can organize it better in that way. Alright, so the first thing that I'll show you is the correct way to go ahead and access any sort of a resource. The first thing that you need is an instance of any class, and the way that you would do this is, let's say that we're in the main method. This is static, so you need to access it statically. You could do embedded resources dot get class, or sorry, dot class, like that, and that would give you, it's going to be a red line because it's not a statement, but that's how you would access the class here. Let's say that you had let's say that you were in a non-static context. So now we're in the constructor, which is not static. You could just use get class, like that. Once you have this class, once you have access to this class, and I would usually recommend using your main class or the class with the main method in it, you can then go ahead and call the method, what's it called, get resource. And then you go ahead and give it the name. Now in this case, if you're using the res or res folder, it would be /res/ avatar.png, and obviously if you had an images folder, it would be /res/images/avatar.png, and of course here you would do the same thing, get resource res avatar.png. And in both cases, this is going to return a URL. This will tell exactly where the resource is, if it does exist. So when I say get resource for the class and I use this, it automatically knows where to begin looking, which is within this jar file, and then from there it knows to go to the res folder and then the avatar.png. So let's go ahead and actually use this. So we'll say URL in both cases. And then we also want to call the constructor. Go ahead and import the java.net.url, and then we'll have it print out the URL. So in both cases, it should print out the exact same thing, and it should also work. So as you can see, it prints out this, and Obviously now I'm not running this as a jar file, so it's going to put it in the bin folder, which is where everything's exported, then res, and then avatar. But I will go ahead and show you. Let me go ahead and export this as a runnable jar file. Launch configuration will be embedded resources. The export destination, I'll put it on my desktop, and I'll call this ER because I don't want to type everything out. And finish. So now if we go ahead and let's actually run this, we're going to run it through the terminal so you can see the output. And that's going to be desktop, what was this called? er.jar. So if I do it now, then you'll see that the file is located in the jar. See, it goes to the jar, and then inside of that, it's in res, and then avatar.png. So that obviously does work correctly. It will automatically figure out the location. Now let's note that if I remove the dash, then this should give me an error. You'll see that it says null, because when I try to call get resource, it can't find this folder, so it's null. So you need to have that slash there. If I run it again, you'll see that it does work. So that's very important that you have the slash. This is how you get a resource. You give the path to it. You first put in the slash, then your resources folder, then the path to the particular thing that you want to get. And then I'll show you how to handle files and how to handle images in a second. But first I'm going to show you one common way of doing this that's actually wrong. A lot of people would say something like file is equal to new file, and then they would say, I think probably the same thing, avatar.png, and then they would print out file. I think that that's how they would do it. No, is that... I think they put in a dot. Hang on one second. Let me take a look at this. Looked into it a little bit, and we're actually going to come back to that in just a second, because first I'm going to show you how to handle images. So once you actually have a URL instance that you get from the resource, excuse me, I'm sorry about that, and you can tell that that it does work correctly, you can go ahead and actually get an image. I personally, there are many ways to do this, but I like to use the image.io class, which has a bunch of static methods in it. And I like to use the read method, which can take in URL input stream, image input stream, or file. And in this case, we're obviously going to give it a URL. So when we go ahead and read this, you'll see that it will throw an exception. So we'll surround it and try and catch, because there's a possibility that it won't work. And now this is going to return a type buffered image. And then we'll go ahead and print out the image after it's done. And then we'll go ahead and, of course, do the same thing right here. So that's how you would actually go ahead and do it. If I go ahead and run it now, you'll notice that this window pops up, because when I use image.io, that's a part of Swing, and it has to initialize everything else. But then again, you wouldn't really use image.io unless you had a Swing application, and it wouldn't matter. But as you can see, obviously, it does say right after each file thing, it says buffered image, and then it has all of this, different information that comes out of it. And you can obviously tell that it worked successfully. But let's say that we try to do it and load in a file, because remember that there is a read method that takes in a file. So let's see if it'll work now. Okay, so you'll see that it says it can't read the input file. And normally this would work. So let me remember exactly which way it is that would make it work. Hang on one second. There it is. So as you can see, I did src for the source folder, then res, then avatar.png, and I did not put the slash there. And as you can see, right after it prints that out, so if this is the first time it runs, and it prints out that correct URL, then it prints out all the information, and then when it runs the second time, it's using this file, and when it runs, it actually works. So if you were to use something like this, where you used a new file, you would say, okay, well, it seems to be working fine, great. Let's go ahead and export this and see what happens. Let me first quit out of these things that are already running, and now let's go ahead and run it a second time. As you can see, we now get an exception can't read input file, because when it tries to use this src/res/avatar.png, Here, it's relative to the bin folder, but when you package it into a jar file and it tries to find this, it's not going to work correctly, which is why you need to use get resource so that it will always get it relative to the location of the jar file. That might not make sense, but just know that using a file is wrong. And I'm going to comment this out because you would never want to do this. So that is wrong. That's just a note that I wanted to make. And this would be how you go ahead and read in images. And as you can see, I'm not going to display the images, although I could if I had a Swing GUI. And in Swing 101, we're going to work with this, which is why I made this video. But you can clearly see that it does work and that it's not null, but it actually reads it in. And to believe it, the width is 500 and the height is 500. If I actually took a look at this, you'd see that it is 500 by 500. So that clearly works well. The last thing that I'll go ahead and quickly show you is, let's say that you had some sort of a text file that you wanted to read in. I'll show you how to handle that quickly. And then that's all that we really need to go over for embedded resources. As far as music or audio, you would just handle that with some kind of an API like the JLayer API or one of the built-in ones. So let's just go ahead and call this one text.txt. So we have this text file, and we'll go ahead and write hello in it. And let's say that we want to go ahead and read it in. So right here, we'll go ahead and say URL, text URL is equal to, and you of course want to do this part right here. It works the same way, except this time it's going to be called text.txt. Now, if you want to go ahead and read this in, you can use, whichever class you like. I personally usually use the buffered reader. Some people prefer to use the scanner. So if we go ahead and do a buffered reader, we could say buffered reader is equal to new buffered reader. And now inside of the buffered reader, you can wrap in the specific type of reader. And actually, in this case, we want to do get resource as stream, which will return the type input stream. And we're going to go ahead and say input stream, and we'll call this stream. What this does is you can get the resource as a URL, which will return the exact location of it, which is good for loading it as an image. But if you get the resource as a stream, then you can actually, read in all of the data and work with it. So with the buffer reader, we can then use an input stream reader, and then for this we would pass it stream. So now I could just say while reader.ready, print out reader.readLine. Is it readLine? Yes, but we need to put this part in a try and catch. Whoops. Try catch. So that would be how you would load in a text file. You can use get input as get resources stream as well. In some cases, you would want to do that. And of course, with image.io.read, it could take in an input stream, so you could use get resources stream as well, whichever one you want. As you can see, it prints out hello, which means it was able to find this text.txt file. It created the buffered reader, and then it read in all of the information and printed it out. So that is how you embed resources like pictures, music, and text files into your application, and how you access them from your code, and also specifically how to load images that are embedded and how to read from text files that are embedded. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and this might not seem terribly useful, especially for those of you that like doing the bucket coding, but when you go to make programs for Swing or other programs that you would actually export and give to other people, it can be very useful to embed resources, and oftentimes it would be actually necessary to do so. So as always, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon with some more coding videos. Bye guys.